What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Let's get right into today's topic. So I got this clip from the Young American Foundation where Michael Knowles is giving a speech on transgenderism. And once again, he completely obliterates this woke virtue signaling student with some basic facts. So let's look at the argument that she brought towards him, and let's see how he destroys it. And I also grabbed some comments at the end, and we're going to read them together. Let's get right into it.
Before I state my question, I just want to honor that we are all standing on the land that belongs to the Ojibwe Anishinaabe people.
Thank you for mentioning that. I meant to mention that at the beginning of my speech, but I'm glad that
Dakota,
you put.
Northern Cheyenne, and they have been here for time immemorial, and so that leads into my question. So,
why are you there then? Why these people love bringing it up? History, talking about how this place was stolen from somebody, but they're still on that land they're speaking about. It makes no damn sense.
You make the statement that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, and so I'm going to ask you a question about that, but prior to that, I want to just state that for 5,000 years BC, Gala, transcribed, and androgynous trans priests of Sumerian goddesses have been around and noted. 200 to 300 years before Christ, in ancient Greece, there were gods worshipped by Gali priests who wore feminine attire and identified as women. Since we are standing on Anishinaabe land, Turtle Island, which is the nation that we live under, has
I don't live under Turtle Island.
Right, well, maybe you should read a little more indigenous knowledge books. Indigenous communities have used two-spirit personas for the entirety of their culture, and so that leads me to my question. When you say that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, I ask you, Mr. Knowles, how can we eradicate something that has been here as long as humans have?
Well, yeah, there have been all sorts of crazy, terrible ideas for a very long
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people used to own people back in the day as well. And you can't look back on history and say, well, I feel like I should own a slave because back in the day, people used to own each other. You can look back at history and justify all types of evil ideas. I mean, people used to sacrifice each other. Literally, they used to go hunt down opposing tribes, then take them up big, giant built pyramids, take their hearts out, and then sacrifice it to some evil, demonic, spiritual god that they worship. They used to sacrifice children that way. So you can look back in history and practically justify human sacrifice. So that's not a valid argument. Just because something was, I don't know, part of life back in the day does not mean it should be part of life today. This is called human evolution. This is called humanity progressing through time.
Time too. You're pointing to civilizations that committed human sacrifice, okay?
Exactly.
You're saying that some ancient pagan tribe worshipped demons and therefore we need to castrate children. That's not a good argument. Yes, that's true. There were all sorts of terrible...
Matter of fact, the demon spirits that the people back in the day used to sacrifice children to love what you're doing. This is great for them. You're literally sacrificing children like they did back in the day in the name of transgenderism. But you don't realize the evilness that you're doing. Same thing with abortion. The people back in the day would look at humanity today and just, oh man, they will be impressed at the level of human sacrifice that people commit today via abortion and transgenderism castration. That's human sacrifice right there in itself.
Tribes. In fact, as recently as a little over 500 years ago, the Aztecs here in the Western Hemisphere slaughtered 80,000 people in a sacrifice to one of the demons that they worshipped within the span of 4 days. That's not a recommendation of doing that. I don't think that we ought to consider it. Though, unfortunately, in our increasingly pagan and liberal culture, we do commit human sacrifice to the tune of 800,000 babies a year sacrificed through abortion.
Via abortion, exactly.
It would make the Aztecs blush.
Yep. Oh man, they would look at us and just be like, oh my God,
to make it the right thing. You refer to a notion that is increasingly popular on the left, which is the idea of the two-spirit among various indigenous tribes. That is not real. That is a contrivance of white liberals in America. There have been various conceptions of sex and gender for all of human history, but the idea of the two-spirited indigenous intuition of some modern transsexual living in New York City who's a man who very much desires to be a woman, that is a complete fiction. You will not find that in literature dating very far back. So what does it say about the question itself? The question, regardless of what the ancient Sumerians believed before they chopped up little kids or whatever, is it true? Can a man really be a woman, and can a woman really become a man? We all know that the answer to that question is false. That's why Professor McCloskey pulled out of our debate at the last moment next week, because even a distinguished professor knows, he has the intelligence to know, even if he is transgender identifying himself, that he can't win that debate because the idea is indefensible. So the question becomes, how does one know that someone with the total physical appearance of a man, how can one know that that person really is a woman? Do you have an answer to that question?
To clarify, you're asking how can somebody know if they are a woman?
And how can I know if that person is a woman? If not by the physical attributes, their natural and enduring biological sex. What's the alternative to that?
So
Great question.
my response to you is then a question of, what is the purpose of knowing another person's sexual...
See, there it is. There it is. These people can never answer straightforward questions. Questions that is irrefutable. See, this is a great question because y'all are the one bringing this up for debate. So you're saying that we shouldn't look at somebody's physical characteristics and determine if they're a man or woman. Okay, let's roll with your logic. Then he's asking, what should we use to determine that? And your response is, why does that matter? Well, I'll tell you why that matters. Because there are such things in society that are separated by gender, like bathrooms. You know, that we need to know if you're a man or a woman because of bathrooms, or prisons. I can give you more example, or the medical field. See, a doctor needs to know by just looking at you, just in case you can't communicate if you're a man or a woman, he needs to look at you and determine if you are a man or a woman so he can give you the proper care. See, let's say, for example, you have a stroke and you can't communicate and tell a doctor what you identify as. So how is he supposed to determine without looking at you what you truly are so he can give you the proper care? See, that's why that matters. But these people can't answer any straightforward question because it will literally obliterate their ideology. That's why they will never answer a question as simple as, what should we use to determine if you're a man or a woman? If I can't look at you and say you're a woman, then what do you want me to use to determine that? And it does matter. It truly does matter.
Well,
Sexual
there
identity
you are.
but let me finish.
Yeah.
If it's not for the premise of reproduction, and there's
No.
there's no need to relate outside of that, then I don't quite understand why we would need to question or...
So this is what...
Or even the military. The military has two grades of standards physically when you enroll into the armed forces. They're not going to make you go through the man's qualifications, the physical aspect that a man has to go through. They're not going to make you do as much push-ups or pull-ups or run as longer and farther. They're not going to do that. That's why they need to know if you're a man or a woman so they can see which test that you need to take to be able to qualify for certain positions. I mean, it's not that difficult, man.
That's what happens.
Or I'll give you one more example. I mean, I can fucking keep going. In a relationship, if I am trying to date somebody and I can't look at them and determine if they're a man or a woman, how am I going to know who to approach for a relationship? For a romantic relationship. See, I like women, as the woke would say, cis women. So if I can't look at a woman and determine that she's a cis woman by just looking at her, how would I know that she is the one that I want to pursue if I can't determine that by pure physical appearance? See, what you're saying is I would have to ask her and be like, hey, excuse me, are you trans or not? Are you straight or not? Are you gay or not? Are you cis or not? That's idiotic. That's idiotic.
Whenever you ask a transgender activist to explain even the basic premise of the movement, is they'll immediately say, well, who cares? Why are you so obsessed with this? I'm not obsessed with this. I'm not the one who started sending men into the women's bathroom and taking away their trophies and castrating kids. I'm perfectly happy with the way things have worked for thousands of years. It is the transgender activists who are trying to upend everything. And so I think it is at least my right to ask the question, okay, what is the premise of your movement? But they always deflect from that. They always withdraw from the debate. They always try to change the subject because there is no answer. So you ask me, well, what's the purpose of, why do you even care? What's the purpose of knowing someone's biological sex? Well, for starters, because we have civil rights specifically for women in the United States. We have special bathrooms for women.
That's another example.
Special sports leagues for women. We have all sorts of special places and rights and privileges and that are for women that are not for men. So if now some men, people who at the very least appear to be men, are claiming a right to go into those women's bathrooms, then we either have to abolish all of the special rights and privileges that have existed for women for all of human history and are enshrined in our law, or they need to explain to me how those men are actually women. And they can't do the latter, and I'm not willing to do the former, and I don't think women across this country are willing to do the former, even if a few people have been so ideologically blinded that they would give into this kind of an absurdity.
There you have it, man. I love how, man, anybody really on the Daily Wire, I guess you could say squad, is just so articulate, man. They're just so knowledgeable in explaining their side of the argument without even having to get argumentative. They never get aggressive. They never raise their voice. They never bring up ad hominem attacks on the people asking the questions or debating them. They just stay strictly to the facts, and they're just so phenomenal at that. So let's read some of the comments. The first comment says, I love how he calmly and logically shuts down her wishful thinking. Yeah, it's phenomenal, Mike. Very, very good. Next comment says, she just got schooled more than her school ever did in just 5 minutes. She seemed hesitantly and reluctantly willing to actually listen and maybe learn. But I'm sure once she's back in the group thinking of her peers, later she'll forget all about the logic she heard and melt back into her emotions. Facts. They're going to go and remain in their little echo chamber. Next comment says, it's crazy that Michael has to explain basic biology to adults. Yeah. Nowadays, people are just so woke, they can't even think logically. Next comment says, as a former woke leftist, beautifully done, Michael. Next comment says, that was utter fire in terms of how well he responded. Stayed over the target, cited facts after facts, and even stayed polite. That as well spoken. That was well spoken. Very well spoken. And I love how they stay polite. Love how they stay kind. And it exposes the left as well, because they always get angry, rowdy, start heckling and just ruining these type of debates with just utter nonsense. So let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about it in the comment section. Make sure you hit the like button down below. And if this is your first time on the channel, consider hitting the subscribe button with the notification bell so you get reminded every time I bring a brand new video. YouTube is shadow banning some of my videos. So once again, hit that notification bell, guys. And then check out any of the other contents that's somewhere in the suggestion box, somewhere down below, next to me, up to me, whatever. Click on that next. Thanks for being here. See you on the next video. Peace.